Good evening and welcome to the Cohoes City School District Board of Education meeting tonight, September 13th. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. The emergency exits, two here on this side and the same one that you walked in the front, and we would meet out front. If we could please just stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we please have a roll call?
Mrs. Carey,
Excused.
Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Mrs. Snyder,
Excused.
Mrs. Gendron,
Here.
Mrs. Paradis,
Here.
Mr. DeRose,
Here.
Mrs. Geller.
I am here. Thank you all for coming. At this time, I'll turn it over to Superintendent O'Shea for our district reports.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So 2 meetings ago, you heard from Principal Cliff Bird as he shared Abram Lansing's CSED, and the second commitment of that was addressing a positive school climate and culture, welcoming school environment. So tonight, we'll hear from Principal Cal McFarland as he shares some of the work Cohoes Middle School has done to reflect the schools and the district's commitment to we believe in a positive school climate and culture. So Kyle and his team have been busy working this summer, busy through the start of the school year. And by the way, just a reminder, we were happy to have Kyle with us this summer as he joined us after last summer. So a good planning summer. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McFarland.
PJ, you might have to click it.
Well, the presentation is coming up again. Thank you. One of the big things that the team in building the summer setups when I came in October last year, people that were there did a wonderful job, which is very helpful. And I do feel that it's reflected on what we came up with. Now with the culture plan, talk about some other things. So the first, one of the big focuses that we talked about all throughout last year and then this summer was our PBIS, positive behavior support program, and we wanted to not relaunch because we still did. We wanted to refresh it. So we did a complete refresh from the end of the school year to summer, and we have what we call board directors, teachers that have volunteered for being on these committees. And some of the things that we did, which was really big, is we had an old handbook that was updated a few years ago, COVID. So we took that handbook and completely revamped it. And this handbook talks about what PBIS is, how we will use it at the school, expectations. And it's a handbook for the faculty and staff. We're also going to be taking pieces from that handbook and handing it out on Friday. Because what we have determined is we want that transparency and that explicit teachings and conversations to be parents, students, faculty, staff, all over the place. And it is a really good document. We brought back grade level meetings. So on the first Friday, we called all the students, one grade level at a time, down to the gymnasium with the teachers, and we went through expectations. And it wasn't a, let's make sure we do it was a good, this is what we expect. We gave them examples, but we also talked about with PBIS, why we do that, why we want to incentivize and support the students for doing the right thing. We don't want to start off with make sure you don't run in the hallways. We don't run into hallways, and when we catch you doing the right thing, that's the mantra of PBIS. These are some of the rewards that you can get. So these conversations happen in all grade levels. And then the whole staff teaching of expectations. I did purchase big matrices. That's in our handbook, and they're all around the school. That's going to be shared with families and students as well. But what we came up with is that if we want students to do X, we need to explicitly teach them instead of comment, you know how to walk in the hallway. We don't want to just expect the students. So we came up with, starting Monday and continuing through tomorrow, classes and teachers, certain subjects are going through our expectations of how to, when you arrive to school and when you leave, how you behave in the cafeteria, visiting offices, organizing. We think that students know how to organize, but has anyone ever explicitly taught them? Hallways and stairs, bathroom expectations, proper electronic device usage, and fire drill expectations. So social studies, I believe the last 2 days have been taking their students out. This is how we do a fire drill at coaching. Where instead of, oh, well, they do 8 fire drills every year. No, we want to explicitly tell students, show them, and partners with them. These are our expectations. And a lot of this was driven by the teachers on the PBIS committee, but some of the events that we have planned for rewards, we have a pie in the face, we're bringing back like 3-on-3 tournaments, we're doing pizza parties, things that we want to do to incentivize the kids for the right thing. So we're excited about that. All right, one of the another pieces that we discussed, this may be from admin and teachers, but maybe also a little bit of a preview of BLT, is we wanted to increase our communication, not only internally within the building, but say externally. We are using the mantra of the statement, if they don't know what we're doing, they make up what we're doing. We want to make sure that parents, families, community members, admin, it's a different building, that they know what we're doing and are in the loop. So we did implement Synergy. Synergy, the student information system, is very robust. It is going to be fantastic. It's with growing pains right now, learning how to use it, but day by day, we're learning new things from the admin side, from the teacher side, and some of the things, for instance, announcements. Every day, teachers have a pop-up screen that are announcements. They have to either click close or an X to make that screen go away. But they're the daily announcements. It's not buried in an email. It's right there in the system. There's Synergy Mail. It's the internal mail system, which is very nice. If the teacher, this should be set up soon. If a teacher emails a parent or a student, it automatically goes into a contact. You don't have to search through your email for keywords. Who did I send this to? You go right to this log. One of my favorites, and I will say this is for parents. Automatic grade updates. We can set Synergy up to automatically send an update for when a grade gets below a certain threshold. And that can go to parents and students. So what I'm trying to do to test this out now, probably a couple days away, I'm going to try it with any student that gets below a 70, parents and the student that's going to get a notice, just receive a grade below a 70. I don't know what it looks like yet, but that's the concept behind that. And streams is just another neat way to create collaboration inside of the school within the faculty staff. Think of it like a chat board of where I can set up a team of teachers, they can just leave messages for each other. We also want to increase Parent Square meaningful communication. I think if we use Parent Square too much, the message gets lost. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to use the voice function and the texting function more often. And the texting function I'll talk about below after. It's just sometimes, again, the posts get lost. If they don't have their phone, they can't go to work, they can't do that. So how else can we leverage this powerful communication tool, along with other things, to change that people in the know? Now with texts, the last one is increasing staff use of Google Voice. I say this is a game changer for us in schools. It's nothing that's mandated, but what we can do now is we can create a Gmail address and you can sign up for Google Voice, which gets you in action. We have had more success since probably, we started this in April-ish and then continuing now. We've had more success with using Google Voice because I tried emailing them. Oh, I called, I didn't get a response, right? This through Google, the computer, type it out, it sends an actual text, a real live phone number to that, well, anyways. This has increased our response, getting responses back from parents. I can't put a percentage on it, but it feels like it's 80% of parents because they're so used to getting texts. So we are encouraging staff to try this, to set it up, to use it. Well, I had a social studies teacher trying to get in touch with the parents, and why don't we try this? That teacher tried it. He told me within like 15 minutes after sending that text, got a response from the parent. Previously, he sent an email on the phone and never got a response. So getting that communication, so people are more in the know for anything that we're trying to do. One of the last things that we're really looking at this year throughout the whole middle school is we want to make sure that we're using systems-based approaches. What we've determined is there are a lot of procedures or systems that are in place that maybe need to be updated. They haven't been looked at. We've also determined, unfortunately, there were maybe a few things that a system wasn't written down, wasn't precise. How do we do this? Who's supposed to do this? So that's what we're looking at that. So we want to make sure that our systems are looked at from a holistic view. How does it work and tie into everything? And they need to mesh together. Because if you have one system that you think is good, and another system that's competing against each other, that could set up for not very good results when it comes to. This is something that we're bringing back, an RTI intervention student. What this is that we are asking all the faculty and staff members to choose maybe upwards of 3 students. We have them in the class, so we explain to the teachers and staff, this can be a student that you don't teach any. You can teach 6 students, it can be 8 students. The concept behind this is to strengthen those faculty-student relationships. And let's make sure that we're not having students slip through the cracks for whatever reason. So an intervention student is where teachers will be having certain days that I'm going to say, hey, make sure you check in with your student. It could be a quick, how are you doing something? Okay. It could be they look at the child's grades and be like, I noticed that your grade went down on the subject. It could be that person contacting the parent on behalf of the student, be like, I have a good relationship with so-and-so, just let me know, this is what I'm seeing is trying to help them. This allows us to create those stronger relationships. Rachel Marson was here, she heard me say, we have to create relationships, strong relationships before we can have curriculum. So this is one of those pieces to do that. As we're talking, well, our statement internally this year is verified communication. You heard me talk about that, where no longer are we going to accept, well, I sent it. Did you pick up the phone? Did you text? Did you actually speak to about? And then we talked about this last year, and we worked on this over the summer, our reset room. Our reset room is the newly created program where students who are struggling, we have a procedure set up. This is where we did get a TA and aide who will be in this room when needed, but it's the opportunity to take students who are struggling throughout the day and bring them to this location and work with what's going on, what strategies what can we do to get you reset? What are these things that we can do so we can take the student, reset them? It could take 20 minutes, it could take an hour, but then get them back in the class because we don't want them to miss instruction. We will have counselors, school psychologists, social worker, and some other individuals, Suzanne Pelletier, the SEL coach. It's not just the students who are going to go in there to find school down. No, we want to give the students structure. We want to give them strategies so they can stay in class for whatever reason. They just couldn't be successful. So we're really excited about this. We somewhat used this for the first time today with the students. Myself and the dean, and it worked. We took the time, we did this, we called the parent. The parent was part of the conversation. We came up with a plan, and within about 35 minutes, we're able to get that student back into the rest of the day, and this happened a second. So that's that. We're working to get some strategies and support so great. That's what I have for culture.
Question?
I think that, it's really smart to be thinking outside the box because our students are not who they used to be. We have a very large transfer in and out population, the mobility of our students, and like you said, assuming that they know how to do these, simple functions of walking in the hallway but has anybody ever told them exactly or modeled to them what their expectations are? And it's different coming from a K-5 building to, a middle school where there is a lot more movement. They're not in a classroom walking down the hall with a teacher all the time. I'm just using hallway expectations as an example, but I think that that's what we need. I think we need to make sure that our kids understand, how to hold themselves in different areas, but also like to communicate with them, this is why we have this expectation. It's for safety. It's for, whatever the situation is. I mean, I appreciate the thought behind some of the communication pieces too, because it isn't as easy to get in contact with parents sometimes either. Parent Square is great. These apps are great. But we're always going to have kids outside that, we don't reach. I did have a question on like the intervention student. How does that, is that every kid in the building will have a trusted adult, or is it just kids who we feel are at risk who have a trusted adult? And how do we make sure that every kid who falls within certain criteria has someone?
Perfect. Great question. I took this program when I was in Massachusetts, and they called it index card student. At that time, you took a kid, you put their name on an index card, you kind of like that was it.
Sure.
It's just, index cards. But the concept behind this is that we have, we almost have tiers of students. We have high school students, honors, then we have the middle level, and then we have like lower level. What we see, and I'm saying in education, is that lower level students, they get a lot of resources, a lot of interventions. We need to get them to pass, increase their reading rates, et cetera. The high students, they're in honors. We want to give them more to stretch them, push them. This is to catch those students kind of in that middle that maybe they're just quiet. And where is that trusted adult? So we still, I think, have that trusted adult relationship for all students, but these are for the ones that we just, with a little bit more of that adult interaction, they would be more successful. So the criteria for that we run for this was, you really want to look at probably, if we're talking about grade-wise, which is not the end all be all, we pick students, maybe right around that 65 to about 75 range, those ones that are crisis, possibly failing. You also look at the number of referrals. You also talk with the teams. Who are the students that are just quiet, or they just seem to be wrong? If we can get that adult relationship with them, it's shown to make benefits. So I believe, again, we're bringing this back. I'm not going to help them with the name, but this was something that the middle school did a few years ago, I'll say. And it worked back then, so we're just going to take that back and kind of update it and continue to do that. It's the right thing to do to make more positive relationships.
Can I just jump in for a quick second? Because I think that another criteria is attendance. So kids who are typically sort of disengaged or less engaged with students, that would be another parameter we would look at, because we wanted to strengthen the connections with the kids. So, I think for the most part it would be more like at-risk sort of situations. But I think attendance is a big one, because if you're not here, you're not engaged, then you're farther behind and it just, it spirals downward. So that'll be another criteria we look at picking kids.
I mean, I think it's a great place for us to start. Like you said, a lot of times we see our most struggling students getting a lot of resources, but, we don't want to also forget about, our higher achieving students who have a lot of pressures on them and have a lot of, things going their way to not feel like they're connected either. So I think it's definitely a good start and a way for us to start building a new culture that is more, like you said, transparent and communicative and, building those bridges with our families so that they can be involved in what we're doing and maybe setting the similar expectations at home, I think could help us in the future too, so.
And the last about building a culture, we're doing something this year at open house night. This Friday, we're doing a back to school barbecue open house. Different time frame for 8 to 6:30, but we came together as a faculty and sometimes the traditional open houses, it's not as successful as we think it is. Oh, parents came, but sometimes they're rushed between this, and they really want to talk to a teacher, they want to form those relationships with parents, that's why they come. So we're trying something new. We're going to have all of the teachers have grade level tables or team tables, specials will have a table, wellness center will have a table, clubs, after school clubs have a table, and we're inviting families in to have more of a conversation, have more of a this is who we are, this is what our business is about. So a little bit more, word is easy. I don't want to say less formal, but it's not the, okay, here's the schedule for 10 minutes, I'm going to go to period 1, then we're going to go to period 2. They're rushing from, so we set up a 2-hour block to invite the families in, come in. Food, everybody likes food, so we'll have food there as well, feed them. So we'll hopefully a change like that is positive. I know from some of the families I've talked to, are really excited about change. Some of the teachers are very excited. I don't want to say the teachers aren't excited, but it's different. Usually they're used to the 6:30 to 7:30 on a Thursday night. Something on the
So my last question is, you said that the handbook obviously got updated with all of these expectations that we're now modeling to kids, and that will go home to parents. Do you intend on sending that visual of, what each of the different criteria are, or so that they have an awareness of what's being coached in the building?
Yep, we have that. That's part of the PowerPoint that we did. And really, our PowerPoint went on our matrix. So the matrix is big signs.
Yeah.
And it says hallway expectations, no running, electronics. So that really went over. What we're going to do is for the teacher version of the handbook, there's a little bit more in there of how to write a referral, how to tap something.
Sure.
We're just going to take that out. So, but the information there really cool. So yes, it is in there. That gives me an idea to possibly tease that out. This is what each student that was here on Monday, they learned this in this class.
Right. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions or?
I just, I think the entire middle school needed a visa. I think it was very much needed. How are you going to continue it throughout the year?
I do feel that with the communication and the structure that we build in the faculty first, that's what a lot of this starts.
Are you still going to be, what I'm asking is with the students, will you continue, after Christmas break, students have been home for a while? Will you have the
grade level
meetings and all of that stuff? We have to recognize that when students go home, they get out.
That is built into the schedule. That will call a reset for certain times. I don't think we're going to do a whole week of teaching the expectation again, but there are grade level meetings. Guys, it's been 10 weeks, 15 weeks. We'll reset this and these are the expectations. And that also comes with communication home to let them know. It's the resets that we're doing.
May I answer that for a quick second?
Yeah, that would be great.
That's a great question, and it falls right under the heading of PBIS, because one of the things that drives PBIS is your data, your academic data, your discipline data, all that. And we can go back years and years looking at referrals and rules from, it's sort of how many did we have per month and what were kids getting in trouble for type thing.
Right.
So if we notice that, classroom behavior, but we tease it out a little bit further, we would kind of focus the reset on some specific areas if we notice that there's some concerns. That's always a major thing. It's
Yeah.
always a major thing. So we'll always kind of refocus on that, because they're just very crowded. The other thing is just, following a direction the first time. It seems innate to all of us, but, can you please sit over there and think, why? And so instead of, so disagreeing appropriately, all those
Right.
things. We do think some work will drill down a little bit more in the resets and focus on more behaviors. And also through our second step weekly lessons, we'll be teaching more of those, just basic social interaction skills and practicing them and reinforcing them too. So the data kind of supports what the reset looks like, and also when it is, but after a holiday is a good time, after any kind of break.
Right.
So we can all sort of like remember.
Or even at the end of the year when students are getting anxious because it's the summertime and they're going to be home with nothing to do, realizing that that generates more anxiety in the kids and everything like that. So to know that you're monitoring, the time periods and knowing certain things that will trigger it.
And some grades need different focuses, so.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McFarland.
Thank you very much, and thank you too. I know you've been working really hard too on both the second step and the PBIS, and we were set on roll, but we're so happy to have you in this role, so we haven't paused. So we do have a few updates that I want to provide on the opening of school before we turn this over. And first, the hiring update was mentioned, Abram Lansing, 3-5 functional skills. There is an opening. We are continuing to recruit, reaching out to colleges, middle school. Saw the posting to try to combine the .6 Spanish with the .4 TA to have that be a full-time position in the HVAC both areas. We did receive an applicant, so we have to look into that. In terms of the teachers too, I want to let you know, and Becky is going to be very much involved with this. We haven't met yet, although I got a bunch of information from Becky. We're having an initial meeting for a Grow Your Own Teaching program. So the initial meeting will be Dan, Laura, Becky, counselors at the high school, and then we'll go through we do have Future Readies. We have a pathway through Future Readies, but Becky has made some contacts, and there's some pretty strong examples to follow. So really looking ahead, down the road as well.
I mean, I saw a lot of first day of school pictures that said, I want to be a teacher when I grow up, just saying. There was a lot of them.
Yeah. So capture them when they're younger, and then so more to follow on that. In terms of other positions, Van Skyke still needs a cleaning position. Thankfully, we have that district-wide position, so the person is still able to work at Van Skyke, and we continue to look. You'll see a lot of aid applications on the agenda. So on the September 27th agenda, you'll see 2 more part-time aid and 2 more full-time aid recommendations. They've been scheduled for fingerprints, so once again, as long as the fingerprints clear, I'd like to start them earlier, so they're right there. And then, so we really just have 2 aid openings without a person at full-time aid at Cohoes Middle School and a full-time aid at Cohoes High School based on a resignation that we'll be accepting tonight. So any questions about hiring?
So just a kind of clarification. So we've got lots of .2s out there. And we just wanted to make sure that those positions are still are posted on OLAS as open positions and not, like, I understand that we are in, like, the high school it's harder at the secondary, totally get that. But the high school's in a position where they have many teachers teaching .2s. So it was a question, like, what if a teacher were to move in and be looking, like, are we keeping this an open job? With even a potential hire date of, July 1 or whatever the consideration is, but having it open and sitting in OLA. So if anybody's looking, knowing that we're still looking for a science teacher, we're still looking for a math teacher. We filled them right now. It's not the most ideal situation, but, making sure that it's still out there that we are searching for certain positions.
So two parts to the answer. Right now on OLAS, we have still one math teacher, a position at the high school, because even with all the combinations, we had to reduce some sections. So that person, if we could get a math teacher or, then we would be able to bring that person on, be able to complete that. And we're also down some impact. So we have a plan working with Laura for that. Our thoughts are to refresh the science and math postings in a short period of time, put them back, and they're not on there right now. I mean, the one math posting, if we get 2 math people, great. We do have some potential people currently in the pipeline too, that we're hoping, we're reaching out to colleges, looking at student teachers, looking at that, but those will be back out there. And then Laura and I discussed that plan, like stick with the one math for now, because we do have people too who have, committed for the period of time. We know though that after half of a year doing, an additional section, that does get draining. So,
I mean, even if I guess my point was, even if it wasn't anticipated for
Yeah.
next year, knowing that,
Yeah.
we don't really want to put our teachers in a spot to be,
no,
have to take more point twos and take more work on. I understand that, people have committed to it and it's what, they're willing to do, but is that really the ideal situation? No.
so the math is out there.
Okay.
And then we'll be refreshing the science in a short period of time. And then the Spanish, we need to fill as soon as possible. So
Understood. Thank you.
thank you. So Dan is going to provide a technology and a synergy update, but before he does that, I know that I'm going to talk a little bit about McKinney-Vento homeless numbers, because there is an increase 5.2 for our liaison. So
There's an increase over the last few years. Our homeless population, our McKinney-Vento students has been growing and growing. And it's a difficult situation for families. And I would say this year, right now today, there are 67 students that are identified, 33 at the elementary level and 34 at the secondary level. Last year at this time, there were 74. If you wanted a prediction, I don't see that number decreasing significantly anytime soon. If anything, it goes up. Right now today, we have 20 students being transported to and from school from various locations all around the Capital Region area. And we certainly have to follow the law, but we also try to provide assistance to families. And one way we're able to do that is we had a 0.8. Her name is Myra. She's wonderful. We just hired her at the tail end of last year. Really nice, really great parent advocate. And so we need more of her. So right now, currently, we have a McKinney-Vento grant that was extended. It was a 3-year grant, extended to 5. We work with several other districts. We're all part of that same grant. And I was able to move some things around. And then as we wrote the Title I grant, I was able to we had some increases this year in Title I. So I was able to make her position full-time, and it's needed. And she'll visit with families before school, after school, during school hours. She's gone through all of our things we have to have for families, clothes, toiletries. There's a long list. And so I feel like we're set up really well right now to do that. And again, she's doing a great job.
So can I just note, so Myra reports to Rachel directly, and in the near future, that there's mandatory training for staff that they'll be leading, and we thought at some point in the future, it would be nice to have, when Rachel's here, have Myra kind of and meet all of you.
And I would say Team Peg, Dan, Rachel, and Myra, one of the things that we're, and a little bit of Stacy, is we're now put the right things in place to bill other districts. When students become homeless in that district, sometimes we could bill other districts for certain things. And we have that down now. And so we're last year, a little bit last year for the previous year, the dates the state would let us go back to. And certainly for this year, we're on point with that. I can't tell you when we're going to get the money, right? But we are billing those other districts. So.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
So the McKinney-Vento grant that we are in consortium with, is that, are we not applying individually because we don't have enough students? So would the growth of the students then qualify for our own grant, or?
So
So it's like 100 kids, right? Like, so if you end up net 100 kids or around that.
in Title III for homeless kids, if you don't have 10,000, if you're not allotted $10,000 or more, you have to do a consortium with other school districts. This year we have that, so we have our own. But that particular grant, unless the numbers were like for the big five or really large districts, we had to do a consortium. So Mohanison runs it, although the previous grant I did in along with the other districts, Ravenna. And so that's what we're doing now. That one was a little bit different than what you described.
We're not quite there yet. We get the numbers and we, look at it and, work with the grant writer for that. And so we haven't been at that number yet to do it on our own, but we will continue.
Oh, it's
I
better.
was curious to know if the growth would then, obviously we would have a better net gain if we were individually qualifying for the grant. And I understand it's like per student. So I just was curious if the growth would put us in a place to qualify for our own individual grant.
I think our numbers would have to double
Okay.
because of the size of our district.
And then, my question was if she was going to be participating with Rachel in providing these community resources, because Rachel had talked to us about developing, this
Her book.
guide.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we would assume that Myra would be involved in being able to contribute towards that because she knows the neediest families and what resources they need.
And they're doing that right now. And certainly part of her role is, and what she should do is not just the offerings that we have within the district, but making connections for food, potential housing. Kids need glasses, they need to go to the dentist. And things like that. So they're building all of those connections together and making those for families.
And my last question was, with the increase with the transportation costs of having to go to different districts, are we using the piggybacking, where we can coordinate with other districts to help with transportation if we're going back and forth, or is it not an opportunity because it's just not?
The best answer that I'll give you is we are not doing that right now. And the reason from my perspective is that transportation is a struggle, getting the appropriate transportation. And quite frankly, we have to work on a daily basis with our transportation providers and push to make sure, because they of course want to do a route, but we can't have kids getting 2 hours late to school. And so right now, transportation in general is so hard to get that we are not coordinating those.
Okay.
And in this particular case, it changes. It could be day by day. A kid might need a bus for a week.
Right, no, I
3 days
understand.
or the rest of the
I
year.
just didn't know if there was any kind of coordination with other districts who were local, where, you know, a kid was coming from, you know, who knows, you know, Latham to, there's, you know, going to Cohoes and one going to Watervliet. Are we connecting services so that, you know, there's, you know,
Not on-
one stop where it's
BOCES, we do the, like,
Less.
it goes to a program.
a few, we understand that transportation costs are high, and we know that these single individual routes are even higher.
Yeah.
And so I just was asking if there was potential there for us to use, you know, some of our coordination with other districts to offset. The answer is no. Got it.
That'd be tough. and
It is.
You would also
Yes.
have to say how many homeless kids you have and who are they? We can't share that.
What's that?
BOCES tried to coordinate something a few years ago, like right before COVID, I feel like, but it never,
Got off the ground.
right.
Yeah.
We are highly feedable for transportation now, so it's in the low 90s, which is good news. But the transportation costs skyrocketed last year.
Well, sure. I mean, you can't find bus drivers to,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
internal transportation departments are having difficulties, and for us to have to go outside and find an external source, I'm sure it's even
been a
more
real
challenging.
struggle.
And that's why I brought up the question, like, if there was an ability to coordinate, it would seem like it would benefit, you know. But I do understand the transient nature of the population and knowing that today could be one thing and tomorrow could be another. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anybody?
And sure, in terms of technology, the start to school went fairly well. I mean, there's a few hiccups, but Chromebooks got distributed at the middle school and the high school and in the elementaries. We had some that were mislabeled here or there. And, you know, just small kind of things that did need to be fixed. Right now, what we're working on is we've had about 40 kids, don't hold me to the exact number, but it's about 40 new kids to the district. So we're trying to both make sure we get Chromebooks in the hands of the new kids that we weren't able to prepare for, you know, as they come in, and then get those distributed, and also reclaim some Chromebooks where kids have left us. And so we're smack dab in the middle of that. But in terms of numbers of Chromebooks, we have good numbers, and we have some extras. We had some cards that we had to go through again, just to make sure everything was right and correct. But I think we're pretty good now. PJ, any?
So just to clarify, because I did share all the principals' opening date reports with the board at the elementary level, those have now been distributed with the exception of the new students, just.
And we created a structure for the building so they know they can do, you know, an IT ticket with multiple kids. So they're not filling out 20 IT tickets with the appropriate information. And so we kind of work through that. Any technology questions?
I just have a question about the 40 new kids we didn't know about.
So some kids might pre-register, some walk in the day school starts. Here on the 5th day of school, we probably have kids in the queue registering right now. So, you know, our priority is to make sure that we give the kids who are here and had previously had a Chromebook and get them right in their hands. And now we shift to this. So my hope is always within the first week of school, you know, we can, to the best of our ability, get kids Chromebook in hand.
Okay.
And so again, and that's for kids in 3 through 12.
And I mean, you're not talking about the kids who had already registered in the summertime, like prepared for those kids, correct?
If many of those kids had them ready when they came in, but if we don't push the registration, and what I mean by that is when kids register and we make sure they show up on the first day of school, if we push their registration, then they fully belong to us. So we don't give kids a Chromebook, of course, until they show up here, and we want to make sure that they're going to be our students. So sometimes we might have 15, 20 kids register, maybe even 30 or 40, depending on the year in the summer, and 10 don't show up. So we want to make sure that we don't hit the button and they become our students for all things. until they walk on property.
So I'm a little rusty, but with the accountability, it was that as soon, and this is with the state measures, that if a student was in attendance for even one day, which is,
belong to
they
us.
belong to us, which is why we don't push forward with everything until we make sure that they are actually.
But we know how many kids are registered to our school during the summer.
The ones we know about.
We have a lot of last minute registrations, number one, but also in order for them to actually be synced with the Chromebook, they have to have a Cohoes.
They have to have a Cohoes email, they have to have, and we can't do any of that.
Which I totally understand being synced with a Chromebook. I'm just saying that if we see that we have
Sure.
35 kids registered during the summer, we should probably be preparing for at least 30 kids.
Sure, we do, we have the Chromebook set aside ready. We're just not gonna put the kids' names on them, you know what I mean? And put them in the system as belonging to that kid until they walk through the door, but we
Okay,
have those Chromebooks set aside.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking, like, I'm asking that we prepare.
Yeah, we're not, and again, we made sure we have some extras this year in case a
Perfect.
kid breaks a Chromebook. I mean, we try to do it within, I want to say 24 hours, but within 48 hours, we can usually put a Chromebook in the hand of a kid.
Yeah.
Who needs it.
No, and I totally understand about like pushing the registration and stuff like that, but my question is more of that, we know that we have 35 kids register over the summer. We're going to prepare for 30. So we've got Chromebooks set aside already
We do.
for when they show up. Okay.
In terms of synergy, this was a week of successes and frustrations, and that's the truth. So I was talking synergy in front end and back end. Front end is forward facing parents, kids, teachers, and then the back end stuff, which is making sure all our softwares that we own and buy and have to have both as something we must do compliance and also the things we want to do in the instructional programs that are important to our teachers. So on the back end stuff, 5th day of school, Parent Square was functional, but now it's fully functional as of 11 o'clock today. Knock on wood, we're gonna monitor that, but that was a huge undertaking. I have to thank Katrina, who's been working on all of this night and day. Our Meals Plus is now synced. And again, that's a brand new software program that we just bought. And all the kids in the district are now synced with that program. Frontline and IEP Direct, which is very important. We have a workaround for that so people can get their kids' IEPs and quick access to them. But they're still running some tests, and it's not us running tests, it's Frontline in the back end. So we have to negotiate with these companies, but I feel like that one is really close. And then ClassLink was solved this week, and if you have elementary kids or middle school kids, you know that ClassLink is the web page where kids can get to all things that we have for them. So that's all synced. In addition to that, we synced learning into reading, which is our ELA, Holton Google Online, Castle Learning, which is a science program, Discovery Education, Brain Pop, iReady, Delta Math, and Explore Learning. And there's only 2 more software programs that we're working on. So all of these things in the background are synced so teachers and kids can use them. I would say that on the front end, parents, as I had scheduled on September the 7th, would have gotten their emails from Synergy. And I could sort of watch on screen as parents were logging into the system and registering for the app. That seemed to go fairly smoothly. While we did have a few parents who maybe it went into their spam folder, we can't necessarily control that. But I sent something out on Parent Square saying, hey, parents, this came out. Please check your spam folder just in case. I had about 10 parents that contacted us. And well, again, I try to say 24 hours, 48 hours, we'll get you hooked up. I probably had it done in 10 minutes. I think it went well because I haven't gotten a lot of parent concerns yet, but the secretaries who take the phone calls were sort of trained up on what information to take and then who to deliver that information for, so we have good customer service if there is, a mini problem. I would tell you that our teachers are doing wonderful, but I can feel their frustrations for some pieces of it, without a doubt. I just know that it's going to get better and better. So for example, So what are you doing about that, Dan? Well, it's not just me, it's my team. We have a punch list meeting every Friday at 1 o'clock. We had it last Friday, we have it this Friday. And we bring to the top front end and back end issues and what things we're gonna spend our time on to get solved. I had Jensen Giacomo on a swivel, including her forwarding her office phone to her cell phone. And if a teacher or somebody called and had a frustration or a problem, there were some instances where I had her personally to them within 20 minutes. Because again, that's our opportunity to say, hey, listen, let us show you how to do that. And we're going to try to set up more professional developments where possible. And the teachers are really looking, in my conversations with Mr. Charlone, they're really looking for the assessment piece where teachers can give in-class tests and assessments. And while we have that piece, I have not trained it in any way, shape, or form. And so we met today. And he said, I'm going to paraphrase if that's okay, Mr. Charlone. I know you'll, if I get it wrong, you'll help me, but Dan, you got to get this moving. And so what we decided to do was have a smaller group, teacher leaders, some other select teachers who really used to use the electronic tests, and I'm going to get them on a call with Synergy, and we'll do an initial PD there, and we'll use a train-the-trainer model. Also building our videos. I mean, remember, I keep telling you, during all summer, we did mini vignette videos so teachers can self-help. And of course, we taught them how to get there, and we'll build those out for the testing site too. So it's not there, but it's now bubbled to the surface, being reactive to what people are telling us. And I'll shift resources to getting that piece done. And the teachers also want what you mentioned, Mr. McFarland, is they want to be able to do the chats. And so that's the next thing I'm going to train, but I'm going to get to the tests first because I think that that's what the teachers want more of. So that's where we are.
Has there been any consideration of doing like an open office hours type of a situation where, we're available during this time? Sometimes it's hard for teachers to take a minute out of their day to say, I'm having trouble right now, I need help right now. But if they knew that there was an open office hour that they could attend and knew what the topic was going to be that week, then it would be like a choice to say, maybe I could participate in this or not. That I know that, a lot of our teachers have kids and, are not able to do the before the school, after school type of a situation. But, if it was an open office hour, during lunch periods where, pretty much everybody has a break, they could make a choice to attend. I don't know.
So examples of that we've already done, and I'll tell you some future examples. And again, we have to be flexible as we go. Again, only the fifth day of school and the fifth day doing this, we'll be flexible and react to it. But for example, an entire team today made an appointment with Jensen Giacomo. She takes appointments. They can sign up for her online, or they can make a phone call, an email, almost a smoke signal. But she went to an entire team meeting today for 45 minutes because the team had some questions. They sent them to her beforehand. Jen and I built a schedule, and also we had people from BOCES. Not necessarily, we didn't get to everybody, but we continually walked the floor and then switch. We made sure somebody was in the building and went classroom to classroom. Although sometimes people, they might have had a lunch or been on a plan or doing some other things, but we had that available the first couple of days of school. And for parents and certainly for kids, like for example, at Mr. McFarland and the middle school's back to school barbecue, I'm gonna run a Synergy Parent Help Center. So I'll make sure if I need to reset somebody's password or if they didn't get the email for some reason, I could send it right to them. I today started training the secretaries at the middle school how to do that. So we always want the initial phone call, somebody to help them right there, not transfer them to 2 or 3 different people. That's the ideal, and that's what we're working towards. And then what we also discussed were some scheduled either after school sessions if people wanted to sign up for that. Like you said, not all teachers can stay after school or be there early, but we're going to try to have those, and we'll even try to have some for kids if we see the need. And then we'll even try to do some online ones, again, if the need arises, both for parents and for kids. It's all in the works.
Did that answer everybody's concerns with synergy?
Yeah, the only other thing I was thinking of is when you do a major upgrade like this, sometimes, and I don't know if you had already done it, I don't remember it ever being discussed or anything like that, but you are talking about having some teachers now doing, to get the advanced training and how to do the assessments and stuff like that
Sometimes we've done that and sometimes we haven't. I think I'm trying not to be an excuse guy, but in the past, we had some shorter user groups and we would go to BOCES together and learn the stuff beforehand, but we have to be reactive to the situation now, which is I don't have subs.
No, I totally understand that. I think
So,
more of what I am trying to say is that if it was explained more to a couple of teachers prior to the major upgrade being done and the importance of the training that you needed to come to over the summer or during the superintendent's days and stuff like that. Sometimes, if it's discussed with the people who are going to be using it, then they can talk to the rest of the people who have to use it and stuff like that. And get that across that, this is going to be a major implication into our school day, including the first day of class. Like, we're coming in with a whole new system and stuff like that.
sure. I mean,
I'm just saying, from years of experience of doing upgrades and stuff like that, usually, like, you get the people who are going to be using it the most, a group together to kind of like work that with. So I think it's a great idea that now that you've got like a couple of teachers that are gonna, spearhead doing, getting the in the class evaluations going and stuff like that. I think that, like, that's what you really need to keep the ideas going of, what is most important to the teachers who are using it.
I think timing too is difficult because, this application that we're switching to, as robust as it is, it's not something that was built for New York State. It's not something that was built necessarily for the uses that we have. And so like building that back end piece is huge and it has to be done first. Like,
Yeah.
there's not much. I mean, I was pretty impressed that we had 50 people show up over the summer because like, we can't make people come to.
No, and I absolutely understand that. And like, if I have to, at work, you're doing a big upgrade, like, yeah, like, you've got to learn the system. My concern is just that I know you communicate, and you are a very good communicator. That is not what I'm saying. And I know that both of you communicate with all of the staff and stuff like that. But sometimes it is nice to have like a peer group.
sure.
I guess is kind of what I'm saying. Sometimes, just get a peer group together to say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. Do you want to just go and spread it out?
And it seems like we might be filtering towards that by getting people who are interested in saying, I
Yeah.
want this function, like, let me.
Yeah, let me be the
Yeah.
scapegoat to do it. Like, I think, like, that's an awesome idea because then you're going to get the teachers more involved in doing it. That's all I'm saying.
Yep,
You guys
I got you.
communicate very well. There's
Thank you.
no criticism. I'm just saying sometimes a peer group can help and take some of the pressure off of you.
Any other questions?
So we're just trying to talk about 2 minutes.
Well,
So,
Register, yes.
Stacy gets to share some good news about playground, one
Yay.
playground, and then, and close to the other, and then,
Yeah, so Harmony Hills Playground is ready for play. There will be a formal announcement tomorrow from the school principal, but the installer inspected, gave us the A-OK, Turner did an inspection, CS Arch went over, did an inspection, and then Jim did an inspection. So
Jim went down the slide.
Joan, I don't do inspection.
I don't know.
So
Exactly, I know.
whatever ground cover was meant to be is there.
Yeah, we had to have some additional mulch delivered,
Okay,
yeah.
but that's all set.
That's all set. We're gonna be adding a little stone, in front of the playgrounds, because in front of the swings rather, because it's a little muddy because of all the rain that we've had, so they'll do that first thing in the morning. And there's a couple housekeeping items that we're gonna address internally, but it's ready for play. The Van Skyke playground is fully demoed. I drove past that today. They were a little concerned because there was, what's underneath it?
Shell.
Shale, yeah. Shale underneath, so they thought they were gonna have to bring in some machines to deal with that, but they didn't have to. So it's fully demoed. So they expect that to be up and running, I'm gonna say by the end of next week. Rain always tampers with the plans, but I think the weekend's pretty clear, and then hopefully we'll have some luck as far as weather goes, and by the end of the week, we should be in good shape there, so we'll have some happy kids.
See the soft opening, we're gonna have the ribbon cutting of both, when they're both ready to, you know.
So can I ask, like, with the facilities, the way they are at Van Skyke, are they still able to have outside recess? Or are they not going outside? Because I heard that Harmony wasn't going outside until the playground was finished. And I'm not sure about Van Skyke's situation, if they're actually having, like, if they have the ability to
Use the basketball courts,
tennis courts, or I don't know, just something to get.
So there were no outside facilities that they could use at Harmony Hill that they could go out to? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not sure, that was something that I had heard, that they
We can,
weren't having outside recess, so I just was curious.
That was-
We have a short window of time before winter hits.
Exactly.
I saw just being in and out of the buildings without answering
Yeah.
the question fully. I saw teachers at Harmony Hill taking kids outside for various things more to the front. I think they didn't want them in the back because there were still open bolts.
Construction,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, and so he wasn't letting them go back there.
And it's okay not to know the answer, because like, this is not, it's just kind of off the cuff
Mhm.
question, and
Well,
I was wondering.
we'll find out. I do know in the past, I've seen students from Van Skyke across the street too, but
Using
I
it,
don't
yeah.
know. So we'll ask them about it.
At the open house last night, that was a big topic. With my two kids, they're like, we can't wait because we want to go outside, but I'm pretty sure they weren't going outside. But it was super hot too, so that could have been a reason also.
Yeah,
But the news tonight is great because I know they're waiting.
well, you get to bring home good news tonight.
Can I tell them? Go away, it'll be a surprise in the morning.
Mr. Harrison announced that it's EIS.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I won't steal his thunder.
Well, that's good news, thank you.
Stacy, do you have anything else?
Just that the financial audit is a work in progress still, so we've just got a few items to tie up there. The deadline for that is 10/15. And then once that's all tied up, then we do the ST3 reporting, which is my favorite. So I'm late for that this year, but it'll get done. The audit committee invite will be forthcoming, and that'll be mid to late October. I just have to get the date from the auditor, so folks on the audit committee meeting, you'll have an invite within the next week or so.
And then,
They're excited.
I am excited.
so since we were talking about the opening of schools, just a little, and we'll provide more of an in-depth update on Friday. The opening of schools is always busier with traffic in the beginning. I know that the high school had some issues with traffic. Laura, and you know, everyone put out information in advance, and then Laura did a really nice thorough reminder the other day, and I believe that the next morning it was much better. So, but that's something to be continued to see and follow. So, was it better today still, or no? Dismissal's been better. Oh, yeah.
But I really need to mention as well, and we are going to meeting this evening because of so that we can discuss additional signage that would help support what we're trying to do. Because one of the issues is that adults will say, well, that's not what the sign says. So if we can add something that during high volume traffic between these hours, please refrain from using the circle or back, those things that we can do. We're hoping that will help, but it was much better at dismissal the last 2 days. Drop off, maybe they tell you our experience, but, it's the same thing, parents going around and going back, facing head on traffic, and when traffic volume is high, you have 2 lanes of traffic coming in and nowhere for those ongoing cars to go. So it really should not be permitted from 7:30 to 8 a.m. and 2:30 to 3 p.m. And just limit those 2 half-hour blocks. I think everything else will solve that.
Can I ask you a
As well as
question?
parking along the bike lanes, you cannot fit a vehicle in the middle if there are 2, lines of cars. So security and I have been going out before dismissal and asking people to move toward the right, and that has seemingly opened up a flow of traffic.
Why does it need to be 2 ways? I mean,
I did not.
there's no reason for that way to be 2 ways. And if you say only between these hours and you let people do it, they're gonna do it. So I think that lane of that traffic should be 1 way only at all times. There's no reason for somebody to come out.
I don't really have any power of authority with that, and the city engineer and traffic control get together with the school, relook at those, make recommendations to whether that works at the city level.
Uh-huh.
And they're very specific in particular about signage. We had put a do not enter sign up last year, they're going the wrong way in the circle,
Mhm.
and it wasn't the right color. So we had to order, this was very specific what the city wants. And so we want to work with them directly to avoid any issues with conflicts, to say, like, how can we do this better? It is a non-issue when there's no traffic.
Right.
So if you go around the circle and go back out much quicker than going all the way around. So I see the benefit to that. Also, our tractor trailers, which is voted, that drop off the food service, they can't get in unless they go around and back up because of the way it's set up and our food service trucks. So it doesn't seem to pose a problem except for those 2 times a day. And that's when you have such heavy traffic volume, the cars can move 2 lanes instead of 1.
Which I totally understand. And that's why, I mean, honestly, like, the 2 reasons for people to go through there are exceptions to the rules, other than there's no other reason for somebody to be using that. Then they don't want to go around the circle, and it's a school.
So we'll continue to discuss and explore, and is this I can't remember, I'm sorry, is this addressed at all? No, not with the capital project this time, no.
No,
It
it's
did
not.
start to have.
We did start, yeah.
Just weren't able to continue it, so, yeah, so, long term, but we'll continue to explore.
I mean, if we can meet with this, start meeting with the city and get this taken care of, someone is going to get seriously injured up there. 2 years ago, almost.
So that was part of the discussion with Jim and Laura.
Good.
So in terms of meeting with the city. Something else which is positive to share is because, and you'll see another safety officer on tonight's agenda, who's going to start in October. We now have been able to have our safety officers, enough safety officers so that dismissal is covered at the middle school, dismissal, you heard Laura say safety officers at the high school. When we have our new safety officer on, right now we do have a safety officer at the elementary school a few days a week. We'll be able to move that person there. So that's a plus. And then working, our next step is to interview campus safety monitors. So the more people we have too, that's very helpful. So.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure because I was talking about it as part of opening it. Other questions on that?
So my question was just on, we shifted a little bit to allow for some time in between buildings. So I was just curious, and I know that was more between, the secondaries and the elementaries for dismissal and arrival times. And I was wondering if that has lifted any congestion for both the middle and the high school?
I'm gonna ask.
I can see that.
I know, exactly.
Yeah. Back to customers, you know, I mean, ask those customers and it was because all for stocks, what is, and it's the instead of letting you go. So there is, that's not happening right now, so we can down the ground to full now.
Okay.
I can attest to that.
Me too.
Great.
Yeah. Totally.
Good.
That's it? So you have? Okay, well done. Okay, any questions on anything?
So my only thing with like, with that, with safety officers and, against having an actual like police officer.
Yeah.
Because I know like every school is terrible with people double, triple parking, Lansing's, you know, it's like if there ever is an emergency, because I was at Harmon Hill this week, my kid's first time, and there's no way no one's getting up there. And then like in the security people, it's like, people don't listen to them. So, you know, it's tough for even a police officer to get somebody to move a car. That's my only concern. If there's something that happens in the morning in Harmony Hill or Lansing, nobody's getting close to those schools. It seems like it's always been like that. And listen, I park further away and I just get out, but I'm just thinking if there was an issue, Harmony Hill, both sides, they're double, triple park people. So it's pretty bad up there.
So the Coast Police is very helpful and at different times, and they will help. It's not something, you know, that we can do on.
Okay.
Our school safety officers that I was referring to, they are retired police or,
I saw that, yeah, that's.
or, you know, corrections officers. And so I think when, and one of them, for example, is Mr. Lumbumbar too, who, so I think people.
Love seeing his face, yeah.
So I think it depends, but we do, you know, we.
It's a tough, I know, it's like,
Do have pretty good results. It's just that at the elementary, we haven't had even the safety officers since pre-COVID, and now we're being able to bring them.
okay,
It's not the overall solution, but it does help and it provides additional assistance. And the reports from the elementary is even what I've heard from Lansing, and I'm not sure about Harmony, is if there is somebody out there, then it works for a couple of days even after the person is there. But so we have to make sure the person is there.
Yeah.
Going.
sure.
So, but it is something that we're continuing, and moving the times was
Yeah.
a big piece, and it's an ongoing. We have a safety committee meeting in district-wide safety at the end of September, and again, that'll be a topic there too.
So one of the things that we had done in the past is like work in collaboration with the police department to say, hey, we need a reset. Like, can you just try? I mean, obviously they can't always be there, but try to have a presence during drop off or pickup, whatever is the heaviest, most, you know, difficult traffic. And, you know, oftentimes like that reset helps to kind of change behavior for a little while. And, you know, so I think it's hard because we can't obviously ask them to be there every day, but, you know, if it's a situation where it's really getting to a point where it's not safe and we don't have accessibility to emergency vehicles or anything like that, then, you know, it might cause us to ask for, you know, some support. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just thinking traffic or safety, like having someone here, you know, at the middle school or high school, which I've seen, which I guess that's more important almost. Just the safety of the kids after school, which I'm seeing for school. It's nice. Yeah, police officers.
Yeah, I know they were patrolling out in front of the middle school after school today.
Yeah, I have seen them. It's nice.
I believe they were giving tickets for speeding in the schools.
That's all.
I saw it.
All week.
I love it.
So you're on it.
We are on it, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So into discussion of agenda items, does any of the board have anything on the agenda that they would like to discuss tonight? Any community discussion of agenda items? So that brings up old business. The only thing I had to discuss was not about opening day, but about our facilities and grounds. We, one thing that was brought up after the conversation last week was the high school practice field, and there's mounds of dirt out there that I think that were intended for the baseball field at some point, but now have been there for a long, long time. And we've got, different groups using that field, Pop Warner or,
Yeah,
and so there was a question as to if there was a plan to do something with that or, what the situation was with where it is placed and the accessibility for, some fans or people who are going to the field to be able to enjoy the game without, having their vision obstructed or even visually, it's probably doesn't look great. And then, the other question was, what, if anything, can we do about the pillars outside of the high school? Because it does seem like, I understand if there's not parts available, but it does feel like maybe there could be a short-term solution that could patch up a couple holes for us. And so I know facilities and grounds are not here, but we did bring up these, and so this is part of old business.
Yeah, and to that point with the pillars, that they haven't been available for how many years now? What else? can we do?
So I'm gonna have Stacy, talk about this and then we can call on Laura Tarlo too, who raised her hand, but we'll start with Stacy.
Who conveniently is in the audience.
Come to every meeting. But we did bring up the pillars that our owner architect Turner meeting, and so we'll continue to explore that and get back to, we talked about especially, when we have this, wonderful field, right? We want to make sure the exterior is, and even before that, but, so we discussed some of those types of things, and so we'll follow up.
At the same token, we can use this as a lesson learned as we're working through the current capital project, is keep pushing on Turner, to make sure that we're picking materials that are going to
Stand the
be
test of time.
replaceable. And it's not just, hey, this is the current fad at the moment, but in a few years, good luck.
And we did that with the capital outlay project in Avon Lansing because we heard what had happened the last time too. So that is an ongoing topic, and we talked about that today. Stacy took a wonderful field trip today.
I did. There's several eyesores besides the mounds of dirt. I'm like, really? That's the only complaint?
We just want to give you a list, but we're talking about like priority accessibility.
So I was taking pictures.
Yeah.
So she came up on the back with more of a list. It's like, great.
So the pile of dirt, there was plans to move it. There's a slab, there's a concrete slab. We have right now a flat trailer that we're not using, that there's a plan to sell it. And then the plan is to construct a nicer area to hold the dirt, to hold the fill. So it won't be such an eyesore, and it's a little bit farther out.
that would.
Right now, there's a,
High, because I'm
yeah,
very
that's,
to know that just
yeah.
football, yeah, but that.
So that's the
trailer-
plan,
Okay.
but it's been the plan for a little while and it hasn't come to fruition. So there is a plan, there's a long-term plan. So right now there's a trailer there that's a temporary situation. There's a pile of dirt. It's swampy because of the rain, so it's hard to get to our bleachers right now. And then there's a new pile of dirt that you guys probably don't know about. There's a new pile of dirt that came from the,
Today, recently, because.
recently.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a plan for that. Maybe by the time you go over there, it'll be gone.
Okay.
But that was from the playground. There's a little extra stone. So we're going to use that. It's basically like crushed stone. We're going to use that to level out the area by the swings because it's swampy over there. So there's a plan for that, but temporarily, if you went over there today, there's another little pile. So long-term solution is we're going to get rid of the trailer. We'll sell it or auction it off. And we'll build
That makes sense. That's a good little.
a nicer area to hold that. It won't be in the way.
I mean, we all understand.
Trailer for basic license, but now.
We all understand there's maintenance involved and nobody wants to throw away anything that, or get rid of anything that is,
Valuable,
value and
right.
that we are going to use. It's just a matter of if we are allowing use of these fields, the accessibility and safety of the people who are coming onto our grounds, need to be considered, and we need to make sure, yeah, it's an eyesore, it doesn't look great, but can people get from A to B without injury or
Sure.
harm? And I think that's kind of, where we need to focus. We have to move it or whatever the scenario is to make sure it's a very, fall's a very short season, because of the nature of our weather here. And so it's pretty quick typically.
And Jim is very aware and has had the discussions. It's just we knew Jim couldn't stay today, so that's why we wanted a first-hand account, and Stacy was chosen for the field trip. And Laura, was there anything, Ed, was that about the pillar? Your,
Yeah, if they were waiting for the architectural information on the material.
but we're talking about it at a Turner. We mentioned it at our owner architect Turner meeting with CSR about, is there something we can do instead? Like if we
They
can't,
can't find the materials.
that was the original issue, so now we're looking at, so then what do? We need to fix it.
Holes.
For a long time, yes. Yeah,
Well, and it's pretty significant, like, yeah, right.
so we need to,
Yeah, I mean,
It's gonna hold up afterwards.
yeah, so we're gonna, we brought it back up, and I know that was one of the conversations that was had, but if we can't figure that out, then what else can be figured out? So we're following.
yeah, I think one of the points, especially with some of the projects that we're working on in this capital project, because they're not all shiny and new and forward-facing things, some of it is because we haven't addressed things that needed to be addressed, when they were easy fixes. And so I feel like the longer that we go through and don't address it, the more damage that occurs. And, it may not be structural at this point, but does it get to a point where it's structural? And, is there a temporary solution that we can just, solve the problem, understanding that it may be able to be absorbed within a capital project, but capital projects, we all know, are not, this is gonna get fixed in 6 months. This is going to get fixed in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And then what happens within that period of time? And I know and understand that these have probably been here for a long time, but I mean, it comes to the table and then you have to address it. And I feel like, I really did not notice or, maybe wasn't looking. And now it's kind of like, that's all you see. That's all anybody sees.
So-
And so it's like something you focus on now.
As much as I'm at the high school, I didn't notice it until my son was standing next to a pillar that had a big hole in it to get the senior pictures. And I'm like,
You do.
okay, so, I mean, like, I know the photographer's gonna Photoshop it out or something, but
Yeah.
So we are following
that's
through.
when I happened to look down the lane and notice all of the damage.
Well, and I do think that we have talked to the architect about this and about redoing the front of the high school since it does look so horrible with what was done. And I do want to say that I think that the architect was one of the red, yellow, or green. I couldn't remember the Christmas tree colors from the last meeting that we had with them, but I think it was one that he said could be thrown away. So I think that
We
that's,
talked about that.
okay,
Yeah, we talked about that.
okay.
We explained how important it is, and at our next meeting, you'll see that the color scheme has changed, and it
Thank
makes
you.
sense to us now, though. Let's go, right, means stop,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Very good. Okay, so we're addressing the situation. We have a long-term plan, potentially short-term if we're able to work it out. And, okay. Very good. Any other old business discussion before? Okay. Can I get a motion that the Board of Education adopts the following resolutions of the September 13th agenda? 6A through F, 7A through P, and 9A.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mrs. Gendron,
Yes.
Mrs. Paredes,
Yes.
Mr. Giroux,
Yes.
Mrs. Giller.
Yes. And just a point of note, we just approved a couple of new policies. These were on review. We've already looked at them all, but we do have new policies on the book. Any comments from Board of Education members on anything that is not related to the agenda?
Can we find out what that thing was?
I think
It's a failing battery.
Okay.
I'm afraid to touch it right.
Because it'll go off.
Have to have a.
No, no, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as you know, for school tomorrow, I don't think.
No.
That's for
There's a 9 volt in the teacher.
That's absolutely fine, but as long as you know, and it gets fixed before tomorrow's school day. I know. Thanks, Pat.
So I was asked to just bring up a topic about student accommodations and 504 plans. So, these are plans that are not special ed plans. They are not an IEP, but they're something that's locally developed within the schools. And I was asked to kind of find out how our buildings are handling notifications to our teachers. Like, is it the building's responsibility to notify teachers? Is it the teacher's responsibility to find out if a student has a plan? Is there an indicator? Is it the parent's responsibility to make sure that the teachers are aware that their kids have accommodations? So
Yeah, so I can let you know that they are stored in Frontline, which is the same system that our IEPs are stored
Oh, that interface is synergy.
stored in, and it interfaces with the, we'll get there. And just like with school tools, there was an icon which would let a teacher know, I mean, this is the